This is Level Up Life After 40 with Chey P.
and Amy E., helping women over 40 to grow, reinvent, and stop settling for just getting by.
Because your best chapter might just be ahead. Thanks for tuning in to another fantastic episode of Level Up Life After 40 with Chey P. and Amy E. And one of the things that kind of happens in our day and age, unfortunately, is people are married, then they're not married, they're living alone, or maybe they're not. But we're going to kind of talk to Amy about her experience with that because it just seems to be becoming more prevalent. I have a lot of friends that unfortunately are either getting divorced or have become widowed or something like that. And so they're kind of looking at life and what it looks like now. Do I date? Do I want to remarry? So we're just going to kind of interview Amy today. But Amy, for the folks that don't know, why don't you please go ahead and just give us a little bit of a rundown kind of your story and the history of it.
Sure, yeah. I really hope as I'm sharing this story that I can relate to some of you out there that might be either going through a divorce or are recently divorced, or maybe your divorce has been final for several years now and you're trying to figure out, am I ready to get back in the dating world? Am I not? What does life look like for me in the future? And so I want to share my story and my experience, and hopefully you'll not make some of the same mistakes that I did in the process. So I just want to back it up. Throughout the course of my marriage to my second husband, we'd started out just like everybody else, falling in love. Things are great. But over time, he just became more verbally and physically abusive. Looking back, he was always a little bit jealous and insecure. And I knew that when I started dating him, he had some of those qualities. But when you're in love and when you think you found that person, you find yourself, well, that's not so bad. Or maybe I can fix that. How many times do we think that we can maybe fix somebody? Or we can overlook those qualities that are really not good qualities and kind of downplay them. And so even from the beginning, like going out with my girlfriends, he would call nonstop the whole time, checking up on me, wondering who I was really with. I'd have to put them on the phone. I'd have to FaceTime them. Even though I had never been unfaithful, it was like he didn't even trust me from the beginning. And he had no reason not to trust me. I was everywhere that I said I was going to be. But in his mind, and maybe that was something in his past that he was struggling with, his own infidelity, before I would go out, he would ask, what are you wearing? He'd have to see what I was wearing, and he'd have to give his approval. And I wasn't dressing in any provocative way whatsoever. I was having lunch with girlfriends. So yeah, what does that consist of? It usually consists of a cute top and some heels, right? You want to be cute when you're out with your friends. You want to look good. It was one thing after another. And looking back at it now, I should have realized then what I was getting into. But once again, we turn a blind eye. Well, that's not so bad. Or, oh, he's jealous because he loves me.
Can I just ask a quick question here?
Mm-hmm.
Because I know you talked about like, oh, you get married, you're happy, you're in love. Were you ever in a point, because we're going to touch on this later, but did you ever get married, one, because you felt like you should, or you felt like time was passing, or were you lonely? Were you kind of seeking something that you thought maybe was going to fill the void versus actually loving him? And I know you loved him, don't get me wrong, but you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. I do think I always desired to have a companion. I like being around other people. I enjoy the company of others. So once again, I said this was my second husband. I went from my first husband, which was a marriage that did not last very long. I got married at a very young age. When I was walking down the aisle, I should have been going the other direction, and no fault to him. It was just we were too young to be getting married. So that marriage lasted just little over a year. And during that process, I had already started dating my second husband. So I was already dating him when I was going through my divorce with my first husband. And I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that I like that companionship. I felt like I needed to have somebody else around me.
And you did also mention too, because I know, just because I know some things, like you both had some of the same ambitions and stuff like that. So that was a very attractive quality to you.
It was. Yes, thank you for bringing that up, because he was very career oriented and we started a business together, and there was a lot of excitement with that, and I loved working the business. And so part of the reason I think we did so well together in the beginning is because we were so hyper focused on growing this business and creating a legacy for ourselves and for our family. But going back to some of the red flags that I didn't notice was He disliked the fact that everyone liked me. That sounds crazy, but he disliked the fact that everyone would make comments like, oh my gosh, your wife is so nice. Oh my gosh, she's so sweet. You're so lucky to have her. He said, if I had $1 for every time somebody said, you're so lucky to have her, I'd have a stack of dollar bills the size of the Sears Tower. And he started to resent me for that. He was constantly comparing himself to other people. He became obsessed with material stuff and wanting to be admired like I was admired. But I was admired for being nice because I tend to be nice to everybody. If you're kind to me, I will always be kind back. But I think he really struggled with the fact that, like I said, so many people had so many nice things to say about me.
Yeah, you shouldn't be in competition with your spouse. He should have been proud to have you by his side. And again, those are just some of his own insecurities, and we're not going to dive into that. But that is kind of that is a little bit of a red flag when you feel like you're competing with your spouse or you're angry because people like your spouse. And yeah, and he's just I only met him a couple of times, but he was generally more reserved than you. You walk into a room and if you haven't met them, they're going to be your friend in about 10 minutes if it takes that long.
So I would, over time, it just became really challenging hanging out with him. He would complain about having to go places. He would complain about having to do things. So I would just fill my day up with activities and honestly try to avoid one-on-one contact with him because it always led to a fight. And over time, the fights got worse. Over time, the yelling got louder. And over time, his comments became more hurtful. It got to the point where he would joke around that I was smoke and mirrors because we could get into this huge fight. I would be crying my eyes out. I don't know how many of you have ever had that moment where you were crying your eyes out, but you knew you had to show up somewhere. So in that instance, you grab the Kleenex, you wipe your tears, and you walk through the door like, hi, everybody. It's so glad to see you. It's great and everything's wonderful. Smoke and mirrors.
Or you could say not airing our dirty laundry to our friends.
Or you could say that as well. Thank you very much. So like I said, over time, things got worse and worse. The verbal abuse turned into more physical abuse. And finally, a girlfriend said, Amy, I need to get you out of this relationship. And if it wasn't for her, I might still be with him. She's the one that went looking for a townhouse with me. She's the one that was there when I signed the lease. And she's the one that helped me move my stuff out of the house. Chey would have if she would have been in town, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't for that girlfriend, I might have stayed. And she said, Amy, for your safety, I can no longer let you stay there. I remember laying in bed that first night, and there was just a whirlwind of emotions going through my head. I was relieved, yet anxious. I was happy, yet very sad. I was free, yet really lonely. I had never been alone before. I was with him for over 20 years. Prior to that, like I mentioned, I was dating somebody while I was going through my first divorce. I had never been, and I was flippin' terrified.
I can imagine that is a huge thing. And I can kind of relate to that because I went from my parents' house to being married. And if something happened to Brett, I don't know. I guess I'd move in with you, whether you want me or not. No. But seriously, that can be very scary. And I think depending on the situation too, especially if it's someone that's going through a divorce through their spouse came up with it. Like if somebody just said, hey, I'm leaving, and then you're left alone in that position. So that's a very vulnerable, scary position also with just a whole different set of dynamics. So I like that you shared all of those myriad of feelings. When did you start feeling kind of empowered after you were there? Like the first night, I don't know if you slept. I don't know if you cried. I don't know if you were able to eat or threw up all night from anxiety. But when did you start feeling like, I got this?
It took me a while to get to the I got this because unfortunately, I started dating someone to fill that void of loneliness. I thought I needed someone. I wanted so badly to be liked. I wanted so badly to be respected. I wanted so badly to be loved by somebody. My ex hadn't loved me for years. And so I was just longing to be accepted. As I was going through this divorce, I started dating somebody else.
And I just want to throw out there, because we hadn't talked, like it had been a minute since we talked. And looking back now, of course, I realized because you were going through all this and you don't typically ask for help. At that time, you were keeping a lot of stuff close to the vest. But I had sent Amy a thing because Guns N' Roses was going to be at Wrigley Field. So I'm like, what, a twofer. Awesome. Well, I'll go see Amy. And you said, let's do it. And so you ordered us some T-shirts. But then you sent me a picture of you and another guy in the T-shirts. And I just sent back, that's not so-and-so. And you're like, no, that's my boyfriend. I'm like, we definitely have to talk when I get there.
You're right. I immediately started dating somebody else because I thought I needed that person to complete my life. I had no business dating in that moment. I just longed to find somebody that would show me a little bit of love and attention. He was also going through a divorce at the time, so we thought we had that common bond that we could relate to and talk about. But those ended up turning into arguments. So the reason that I was starting to date him didn't even make sense. I lost my sense of self along the way.
You were two very different people when he was on the phone with you, when he was around, and when you were by yourself. And because I am who I am, I'm like, did you even notice that this happened? Or did you notice how your voice changed? And no clue, God bless you. But maybe you just weren't quite ready there yet. But this is your story. Go ahead. But I'm just kind of pointing out, you really did, when you said, I'm just trying to please somebody else, trying to earn the love almost.
Thank you. I wanted so badly to be loved that I compromised my values. I compromised what was important to me. I compromised who Amy Engelman was because I wanted so badly to have somebody want to be with me. But I kept making excuses for him like I did with my first husband. Oh yeah, he's jealous, but he at least he doesn't hit me. He doesn't hurt me like my ex did. He's such a huge improvement.
Yeah. There was another one of those times where you and I were going out. We were going to meet somebody, a friend from school. And I remember you had on this one outfit and you're like, I can't wear this. He doesn't like when I wear this. I'm like, all the more reason. It's just, I'm sorry. That's, you tell me no. Guess what?
Right. All the more reason to wear it. And once again.
And it wasn't provocative. It wasn't you. The problem is that men find you attractive, but then they get mad that you're attractive. Heaven forbid. Or they like you because you're nice and outgoing and smart. And then it's like, oh, no. Don't be that to other people. You can't be that all the time. But yeah, I just want to clarify. It was a nice outfit. You look like a knockout in it. You still look like a knockout in the second outfit. But I just remember you had it on and then you're like, oh, I forgot. He doesn't like when I wear this out. And I'm just like, all right, that's your choice, but go ahead.
Right. Red flag. Compromising my values and compromising how I look, how I dress, how I talk. You said it best. When I was on the phone with you and he was in the room, it was a completely different conversation than when it was in my car talking to Cheyenne on the phone. Different tone, different way I laughed, different way we interacted with one another. And so I
meek and not in a good way.
Right. Second guessing myself.
Yeah, stifling who you were.
I used to be really good at being able to make decisions, owning a business. People would come to me all the day with every day, all day with different questions. And it was my job to either answer them or help them figure it out. And I found myself second guessing everything I did. Can I wear those black pants? Did I say the right thing? I'm going to make this for dinner. What if he doesn't like the sauce that I prepared with it? But all the while that I was dating him, I didn't see any of this. How many of you out there are listening to this and saying, my gosh, I'm falling into the same trap with this new relationship than I did with my previous one. And we know that didn't end well. Over that course of 20 years of my marriage, I lost my sense of self-worth. I lost my confidence. I lost my ability to be who I was as a person. And it took me a long time to figure out what I'd lost. And now when I did, now I got to figure out how to get it back. And so once I realized that this relationship was not a good one, and it took some time, it didn't happen overnight. It took some time. But when I realized that this relationship wasn't a good one, I was almost like I took a step back and looked at myself and said, what are you doing? Somebody shake me. What are you doing? Amy Engelman, what are you doing? Why are you with this person? Yes, he possesses some good qualities, but he possesses a lot of the bad qualities that you left, minus the physical abuse. I realized that I was just dating him to fill a void and dating him because I was afraid to be alone. Fear. I talk about in this podcast all the time, don't let your fears slow you down. I need to take a lesson from my own playbook, and I did, but it took me a while to figure it out. It's okay to be afraid. It's okay because you're going to be okay. So we broke up and I was alone and I was sleeping alone and I was doing things by myself alone and I was fixing stuff around my house alone and I was eating dinner alone. And I was okay. It's not so bad. I can do this. And now that I'm not in a relationship, I have all the time in the world now that I can hang out with a girlfriend.
Yeah. And then you started with the rescue. And that fills up a whole bunch of time.
Then yes, I discovered the rescue kind of around the same time that we broke up. And I filled the void of wanting to please someone with wanting to help someone, or in this case, the animals. But I'd like to think that in rescue, not only do we help the animals, but we help the families when we place them. So my whole perspective on things really changed. It went from, woe is me, I'm scared, I need someone, I'm going to play the victim card, to no, I can be alone. I can fill my life with purpose and I'm happy doing it. I never thought I could be happy being alone and now I love it.
Did you want to talk about any of your other kind of dating things, or is that coming later?
Thank you for bringing that up, Cheyenne, because I did actually meet and date some really nice people along the way. And I'm so glad that I waited before I started dating them because it was a whole different perspective on that relationship. I knew what I wanted and I knew what I didn't want. I knew what direction I was going to go in that relationship. In other words, I tell people right out of the gate, you know what? I will never get married again. I will probably never live with anyone ever again. And I make that very clear. And if you want to get remarried, I'm not your girl. I don't want to lead anybody on to think, oh, maybe I can change her. Oh, if I hang around with her long enough, she'll probably want to move in. No, it's not happening. I enjoy your company. If you enjoy mine, we can hang out. We can do things together. But I will never go down that road of marriage again. Why? Because I'm so happy that I've discovered myself. And I'm so happy with how my life is going right now that I don't want to change that. I don't want a relationship to, I say ruin, but that's a really harsh word. I don't want a relationship to change me like my last few did.
I think what you're saying is very poignant. And I kind of, is it a no or is it a not now?
I say a very strong no, but it could more be like a not now. I'm not on any dating apps. I'm not putting myself out there. But if God put the right person in front of me and he opened that door, I would be open and receptive to at least walking through it. It's got to be when I least expect it type of thing. I'm going to use the analogy when people are trying to get pregnant and they can't get pregnant. And as soon as they stop trying, all of a sudden they're having a baby, which I think is a great thing. That's how I look at dating or getting into a serious relationship. I'm not looking, but if the opportunity presented itself and it was the right person and the right fit, it's probably going to be somebody that loves animals and is passionate about rescue and giving back as much as I do.
I like this because this is very different from even a year ago about how you spoke. I think you're starting to trust yourself again because we're going to talk a little bit about what's your motivations. So don't let fear hold you back if something really good does come along.
And don't use fear to stay in a relationship that you shouldn't be in. Or stay in a marriage, that fear of, I don't want my kids to go through a divorce. A wise person once told me, do you think you're doing your kids any favor by subjecting them to you and your spouse arguing all the time? Is that the relationship that you want them to see? Because that's not a healthy relationship. And even if you try to hide, we don't fight in front of the kids. We don't yell in front of the kids. There's still that tension and they pick that up.
I do want to throw my 2 cents in here. Just because, for heaven's sakes, if you start noticing things in your marriage, get help immediately. I think every marriage should at least try to be saved, which I know that you did, because divorce should not be taken lightly. And especially because that is one of the things that kind of can lead you into like prematurely getting into relationships because you're trying to satisfy something that was maybe missing, but you may not be ready. And you might just jump at, like Amy said, out of the pan into the fire. But I think if you chose the person and you've been married, I really do think you should at least try to salvage the relationship.
I agree 100% with that. There are plenty of counselors. And if you go to one and you don't like that one or it doesn't work, find another. The right fit for you as a counselor, as a mentor, as a therapist, as a coach is out there.
Yes. And I'm going to just throw this out there. Brett and I went to marriage counseling. We went to 2 whole sessions. That's all we needed, but we needed it. And I'm pretty sure that you're not going to find anybody happier with their spouse than me. But it really took that outside voice, but it also took both of us being willing and open. We weren't accusatory. So approach it with the right attitude and approach it before you already feel like it's the end, because that's probably the worst time to try to go, which I know sounds stupid, but even if you can do things like, hey, we're getting along now, but what can we do to maybe enhance this? Or what can we put in place to maybe fireproof it? And I know this is probably a topic for another day, but since we brought it up, I'm also going to go on the flip side. If you're in an abusive situation, I would not stay there. Sorry, I would not.
Thank you. I'm going to throw this also about therapy is don't wait for it to get to a point of no return. When things start to feel off, that's when you first reach out. When you start noticing changes or you start not feeling the same way about that person, there's probably an underlying reason why that a good therapist will be able to help you uncover. But don't wait, unfortunately, like we did, where we already had a huge amount of resentment towards one another.
Yep, that's hard. It's like closing the barn door after the horse is already gone.
Mm-hmm.
And next, that was my little diatribe on keeping your marriage alive. You're welcome. That's free. I want to go back to a little bit of the dating aspect of it, because I know that you went out with some people and you were pretty clear, like, hey, I'm not looking for anything serious, but a lot of women are going to be in a vulnerable spot. Sometimes men might want to take advantage of that vulnerability, or if a man is making them feel special, but there's something that they just know is not right. And if you have someone that's trying to kind of push the envelope or making inappropriate comments or just doing things where they're just not, just like, dude, stop. Like, what is your advice for that? Because I think sometimes women, because we want to be nice, we don't want to reject someone. We may not even want to reject like the future possibility with someone. But how do you handle that when they're trying to just maybe push you a little bit too much or tell you, I don't know, like, challenge accepted. You said you're not interested in this, but I'm going to make you.
Put yourself first. If this person is pushing you to do things that you don't want, it doesn't matter if you're going to hurt their feelings or not, because they're not going to be part of your life. This isn't the right person for you. I don't care how many fancy dinners he bought you. I don't care how wealthy he is. I don't care what he says he's going to do. If he's making you feel uncomfortable, this is your opportunity to not settle for second. This is your opportunity to not settle for things that you might have let go in the past or brushed off in the past, or I can make this better. No. You can't. You can't take the spots off a leopard. They're not going to change. That's who they are. And in some cases, there's nothing wrong with that. That person is just not for you. Right away, be direct, be firm, be kind. You don't have to do it in a snarky way, but just be honest. I sometimes have a hard time with confrontation, and Cheyenne, as my coach, is working on that with me because I avoid confrontation like the plague. But sometimes those difficult conversations need to be had. And it's in that moment when he's making a comment or doing something that goes against what you want to do or what you feel is right. Don't be afraid to speak up, because if you don't, he's going to think it's okay. And he's going to continue to do it. And then finally, you might snap and be like, I hate it when you do that. And he's going to come back with, well, why didn't you ever say anything? I had no idea. In his defense, I had no idea that you didn't like it when I put my arm around you in public. Because you let me do it this whole time. So this is your opportunity to stay firm, put yourself first.
I do like that you threw out there to not send the mixed signals, because they're struggling maybe as much as you are. And some of this might be hard for them to navigate as well. So yeah, be kind but firm, like Amy said.
I think it's probably just as scary for them to be out on the dating scene as it is for us. I mean, it takes a lot of, I say, kahunas or gumption to ask somebody out, because you don't know what they're going to say. Rejection is hard on any front.
It is. And who knows what their relationships or whatever were previously. They might feel like they have to prove something, and it's just showing up in very bad ways. So put your foot down. You don't have to like break theirs while you're doing it, but put your foot down.
Kind, firm, but direct.
What else do you want to share, Amy?
I guess my biggest advice, if we're going to kind of wrap this up here, is don't rush into things. Use that opportunity after your divorce or while you're going through your divorce to rediscover yourself. Go back in time and think of all the things that you enjoyed doing, all the traits that you admired about yourself prior to your marriage, because chances are they're still in there. They still exist. You are still the same you. You are still that strong, confident, inspiring, motivating, athletic, whatever words you use to describe yourself, you're still that same person. There might have been a few years during your marriage where some of those traits were covered or not allowed to shine. But now that you're on your own again, and trust me, you can do it. You will be okay. I was okay alone. You will be okay alone. Use that time now to rediscover yourself, rediscover what's important to you.
Yeah. And just from the married person over here, check your motivations when you do something. Just really ask yourself, what's the benefit? How is this serving me? And again, like Amy said, don't rush into things, but also don't not do things just because you're afraid. Don't let fear be your starting or your stopping point. If you need to get a therapist or a coach, absolutely 100% do that, because they can help you help yourself work things out that you need to work out to help you rediscover yourself. Because maybe when you got married the first time, you weren't super confident. And so now you're even less confident. It's okay to get third-party help.
Let me throw this last part in there too. We always talk about our network of friends. I'm not dating anybody unless I run them past Cheyenne and anybody that matters to me, because when we think we found the one, and like I said, all those red flags become oblivious to us because they've got all of these qualities that make you happy in that moment. It's your girlfriends that are going to come out and say, no, you're going down the same bad path that you did before. And if your girlfriends don't like them, and it's not to say that one might not necessarily love the new person, but if they're all kind of a little bit skeptical, I would take that as a major red flag that they might be seeing something that you don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think the main point that I really wanted to drive home, if you are dating someone, if you decide to date, make sure that they are letting you shine, that they are okay with you shining, that you can be exactly who you are unapologetically. But I also want to throw out, do that for them too. So it's not just a one-way street. You can't stifle them and say, are you wearing those pants when we go to dinner? Let them wear the pants, man. But make sure that you don't feel like your light is getting dimmed, that you can be unapologetically you in whatever way you choose to move forward.
And just remember, you will be okay. You will survive. In fact, you will thrive, and you got this. Just a quick reminder, everything we share on this podcast is for inspirational, personal growth, and real-life conversation. We're not doctors, therapists, financial advisors, or legal experts. Just two women sharing experiences, lessons, and stories to help you level up your life. Always do what's best for you and seek out qualified professionals when you need specific guidance. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't, and remember, you got this.